Good morning. We're on the porch this
Welcome.
morning. Sylvia's here. We have a guest with us. This is Daryl Atkins, and I'm Linda Hollington. And we're going to talk inspections today.
House inspections. That's
Yes.
Right. And Daryl, you're going to tell us a little bit about it, but I love the name of your company.
It's house to home inspections.
And he's been doing this for a long time, and he was in construction for 35 years, so he
Wow.
kind of has it all wrapped up there.
Yeah.
And he's been doing this for over 20 years. And he's my first choice for inspections, by the way.
Yeah.
So, Daryl, tell us a little bit about.
All right, I'm a longtime resident of Brevard County. I've been doing this since 2003. Been in construction for over 35 years, and I don't know, what else you want to know?
Well, you're telling us a little bit about some of the things you see
Oh, okay, yeah.
out there, and things that they might not know about. I didn't know some of this till you told me.
Right, so basically I'm telling these ladies about cast iron plumbing. So whenever you're purchasing a house, you gotta make sure if a house is built in the 60s or later, that you need to make sure that the cast iron does get cambered. That way you can make sure it's clear, not cracked, so that way you're not buying a house that has high-end cost when you don't realize that. So the $400-something is well worth the money to get it scoped out. A lot of
And
times.
they may not know what you mean by cast iron. That's the drainage.
That is the sewer lines under the house. That's where all the sewer goes through, whether it goes to the city or whether it goes to a tank.
So that's what he's talking about.
Yeah.
So the age of the house, you can, if, for instance, this is it's actually older than 60s, but when you go and you prep for an inspection, you kind of know about the house from on paper.
Right.
So you kind of know what you're going to see from each decade.
Right. So what I do is when I find an address, I look it up on Brevard County website to see what age the property is.
Yep.
And I kind of know what to look for when I get there. So if it's in the 60s or down, automatically I'm telling somebody that cast iron under the ground needs to be cambered, just to make sure that you're not getting into a can of worms.
Right.
And I've seen that personally with a seller. They had that problem, and they chose to go with a liner. I told you.
Yeah, liner.
Yeah.
So there's different ways to fix the problem. You know, sometimes they'll put cast iron on the outside of the house, or they have to beat the floor up, one of the two.
Mm-hmm.
So it all depends, but it's still going to cost at least $10,000 to get it repaired.
And you mentioned something about the roofs, even on the new houses, with the nails
the straps
the nails.
and the straps in the older ones.
Right. So if you buying a house that has a older roof and then you got to get it replaced prior to closing, you want to make sure that your straps or clips have enough nails in them to meet the wind mitigation report to get good insurance breaks. So if you put a new roof on and don't get the straps that hold the truss to the top plate of the wall done to meet the current codes, then don't get that big discount.
And we're talking about homeowners insurance,
Right.
And we need those big discounts because things have just spiraled out of control.
Right.
So
everything here in Florida is terrible with insurance right now.
Yes, it's a crisis actually.
Yep. So
But they're coming up with some solutions. We'll see how those solutions
in December
work.
they voted something
Yeah.
through the Florida Senate.
We'll see
so
how those
we're
work.
hoping we'll see a little something in 2023.
right.
Well,
So- But I want to say if you're looking at a house in the 80s and down to the 60s, if it has a Federal Pacific panel, as you walk through the garage and see that has to be automatically replaced before you can get insurance. That makes the house uninsurable until it gets replaced. It's good for the buyers, sometimes bad for the sellers, but it is what it is.
Well, they can't sell it.
Right, can't sell
I
it.
mean, you can't.
Right.
And these inspections aren't as you said, pass or fail.
No.
It's the point of negotiation is what it is.
Mm-hmm.
You know, if there's something absolutely that you can't deal with, you don't want to deal with, you might want to move on to some other house. But if you really want the house, you have to take it into consideration that either it's going to need fixed now or soon, or sometime soon.
And
Something
Daryl,
like-
how was it you worded that? Did my house pass or fail?
Oh.
When buyers come up to you?
Right, so pass or fail is not, when I get asked all the time about did my house pass or fail, it only fails if you do not like what's found on the report.
Yeah.
So long as you have a resource to fix things, or a negotiator to get things fixed, then you'd be okay. But nothing really pass or fail. You're the one who makes it pass or fail if you do not like what's on the report.
Right.
Yeah.
So, any other questions that we have?
Oh gosh, we had so much. Oh, 4-point. Just remind
Okay.
people.
Okay. On the 4-point inspection for property insurance, that if a house has a on the electrical panel of Central Pacific, Bryant, or Sylvania, they are going to make it real hard to get insurance on those properties. And those typically are found in houses are 80 down to the 70s.
And what else is on a 4-point? We've got 4 points. So
right, so you-
electrical.
AC,
Yep.
that's pretty much just make sure it works. That doesn't really, insurance doesn't harp on much as long as it works.
Okay.
Now, if a house was built in the 50s and you don't have AC, that's okay because the house was not that way originally.
Oh.
So if you had a house in the 80s and it was working, then they want that to be working because that's how the house was designed.
Okay.
Now, on the plumbing part, that's where we have cast iron under the ground, or you have PVC. It all depends, like I said, on the area of the houses. And then the last one is the roof, the condition of the shingles. Nowadays, with the insurance world, as long as the inspector can say you have 5 to 7 years left on it, then you should be able to get
Oh, that's
insurance.
nice to hear. Thank you.
But you got to make sure, realize when it gets to 15 years, eventually you're going to have to replace it. Eventually, within the next 5 to 7 years, you're going to because the insurance is going to force you out to do that.
Yeah.
So that's just another negotiation tool.
Yeah.
That's all it is.
And inspections, number one, are important to do. Don't skip
Oh,
them.
don't ever. Even if you have a new build, do not skip an
Right,
inspection.
right. Yeah, actually,
Your own. Don't. You know, we love our builders, but it's important for you as the buyer to get your own inspector and have an inspection done.
yeah, and I do also do new home inspections as well. And yeah, I do find things that the contractor might miss, or electrician, sometimes they won't wire up the water heater correctly,
Yeah.
so you don't get hot water. Or I might find in the island sinks where the lines might be pinched underground, so you got low water pressure.
Things happen.
Yeah.
It's not a black mark against the builder. Things happen, and that's why you hire your own inspector to do that.
Yeah, so I've also found where they'll install a attic vent, but they forgot to cut the plywood out.
Right.
Or they'll shingle over a hole that's designed for a dryer vent.
Right.
That,
Oh, my.
Yeah.
then-
They're important things.
right, the important things.
Some
you
are
need to-
minor, some are much more important.
Right.
So don't skip the inspection, and look for somebody that's experienced.
Right.
Yeah. Ask around. Ask us. Ask your realtor. Make sure you get someone that's experienced to come read their report really well. Ask questions. They'll be happy to answer your questions. It's a very important thing to do. So don't skip the inspections. Daryl Atkins, I'm going to leave his contact information on our comments so that if you would choose to talk to him or have an inspection or whatever, you can call.
And it's called House to Home, which is
Inspection.
really great.
Yeah, so if you do call me and do use me, I will spend all the time in the world to discuss the report and the house for you, so
And-
to make you feel more relaxed, whether you want to buy it or not buy it. And if it's the house is bad, and you're a first-time buyer, and if it's really bad, I'll tell you, this house is not for you.
And the
I'll tell you.
buyer pays Daryl, and that is the buyer's inspection for them. It's
Yeah.
not to
So you want a
share
good one.
necessarily out with anyone else.
Right, yeah, I mean, yeah. So,
And
anything
we
else?
thank you for coming.
Hey, that's an easy one.
Yeah.
That's easy. All right, thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, Daryl. We'll see you again. Go in depth on something else.
Thank you for joining us.